Shalom. This is an emergency broadcast alert giving all praises, glory, and honor to Yahweh, Ba'ashem, Yahweh Shai, Ba'ashem Rakakadash, in whom we are in great debt. Double honors to the apostles of Great Millstone who rule well. Continue doing so, standing firm in the eyes of Torah, who I learned this truth from. To the elders, the bishops, Akim and Aquab, salutations and blessings to the house of David. We are the hopeful elect at GMS. This is your brother Corsier with another quick one. And this is various topics. This is a video that Apostle Lamrop made about, what, I think it was 6 days ago. So, like, yeah, let me see something. I think it was about, well, it says 5 days, so I'm not sure. But it does say it's 5 days. And he goes into the fact that the curses are upon, so-called Negroes, so-called Latinos, and so-called Native Americans, right? If you may, that those little hats, those people who are going by, they calling themselves Israeli, they're living in Israel today, they're not the real Israelites. They do not fit the prophecies, all right? And the main one of them all that people are still, they would argue that you didn't go into slavery. That's some stupid. That would be very stupid to say anyway, especially when it's come from one of your own. Nevertheless, I googled pictures of white people in yokes. Let's listen to Apostle Limerick real quick. I'm just gonna do the very beginning of it, a very short clip.
All right, I'd like to start off by saying Barak Atah Yahweh, Ba'ashem Yahweh Shai, Ba'ashem Rakakadash. Welcome to another live lesson. The name of this one is pretty much of various topics, dated March 25th, 2026. And pretty much, I got, they took longer to take care of that work that I needed to get done earlier than I anticipated, but it's all good, it's done. And I was listening to the Elder Pastor's video that he just did, the last video he just did, where pretty much he was reacting to a video that the brother GMS Inquire Early 2 did. And I just got different thoughts going on, listening to different videos this morning. And what I wanted to start off with, through the Spirit, is something the Elder Pastor mentioned in his lesson, where he said that when you do the research, you're not going to see any of these small hats with yokes of iron around their neck. That history does not exist among them because they are not the Israelites. But then when you type in yoke of iron, before you used to type it in and a whole bunch of pictures will come out. Now, it's very rare. You got to kind of search a little bit harder to find some good pictures where they show you Jake with yokes of iron and all different types of contraptions on their head, meaning the tribe of Judah. And it got me to thinking also about the book, by Arthur Koestler or Arthur Kessler, however you pronounce his name, who was, I believe he was from Austria. He was a small hat himself, which he could have been a Jake, because he did the research and he found out that their ancestry goes back to the Khazarian Empire, and it does. Now they equate them people to Turkish people. Now the Turkish people are Edomites, but they're saying no, because they with these devils that they're fact checking. Well, they did the research, and after much analysis, they found out that they do have claim to the Levantine area, which is what the scholars today call the Fertile Crescent, down in the land of Syria, Israel, Palestine, Lebanon, those areas down in there. And pretty much they do have claim to the area, but just not to the land of Israel. You could say they have Levantine ties because their ancestry goes back to the Edomites, not to the Turks. The Turks, that came way later. You know, those are Ottoman Turks. Now, the Ottoman Turks, for the most part, not all of them, but a good majority of them embraced the religion of Islam. These are Edomites that embraced the religion of Islam, like the ones that took over, you know, Turkey or Constantinople. From Constantine, I believe that was either the 11th or the 13th, which was the last, you know, emperor to rule in the Eastern Holy Roman Empire. The capital was Constantinople. It was later changed to Istanbul, Turkey, or Turkiya, and then now the capital is Ankara, I believe, or something like that. You know, so I don't even think they recognize Istanbul as the capital anymore. But I could be wrong. But nevertheless, you know, it is what it is. But those individuals that were in between over there by the Caspian Sea and the Dead Sea, I believe. No, was it the Dead Sea or the Black Sea? Caspian Sea and the Black Sea, I believe it was. You have the Caucasus Mountains of what used to be called Georgia, Russia. Now it's just Georgia as a separate state or country, but it's originally a part of Russia. And they were confronted with either accepting the religion of Christianity or Islam, and they chose neither one. They chose to remain neutral, so they embraced what is known today as Judaism, which Judaism has nothing to do with the scriptures. Judaism is a set of tenets in a religion that is contrary. Everything in there is contrary to what the scriptures say. You know, when you do some reading, Elder Apostle Gabar, you know, did lessons on that years ago, where he brought out the debaucherous, you know, nastiness in the Talmud, and that's pretty much where they get that from, and then they try to use the scriptures as a you know, to try to act like they're religious. But when you really look into that whole nonsense, that shit is demonic as hell. Nevertheless, you know, like the apostle said, you know, he said that you're not going to find any pictures of these small hats with yokes of iron around their head, you know, around their neck. But you will find Jake with it, even though it's far and few in between now, but you still find it. And the reason why is because they are not the people of the Most High. They did not suffer the curses of these scriptures, which led me to think about the book, The 13th Tribe by Arthur Koestler. And pretty much I want to highlight a little something in that book. But before I do that, I want to read this. I'm not going to read the book because I may have it in my favorites somewhere. And there were many other things like the Yiddish language, which they tried to get away from slowly but surely. This is why Ben Yehudi, Eliezer Ben Yehudi, you know, he came up with that language, you know, because that was a way to separate themselves from the Yiddish, because everyone that knew anything about anything connected the Yiddish language to those converts of the Khazar Empire, to Judaism. So, and then there's other points. One more point I want to make on that, but I want to read this first, Deuteronomy 32:25. It says, the sword without and terror within, because we got jacked up as a people, shall destroy both the young man. Oh, that's not it. That's not the verse. Yes, I'll read on. The suckling also with the man of gray hairs, and that happened to us. I said I would scatter them into corners, meaning the true Israelites will be scattered into corners. Now, what would be akin to when you sweeping the floor and you have a bunch of debris and you can't get to it at the moment? What do you do with it? You sweep it into a corner. You don't sweep it into a corner because it's special. You sweep it into the corner. You get to it when you get to it. So that's a representation of these ghettos, these barrios, the hood. And pretty much you see how they redlined, how they cut off. They set up certain, you know, highways and certain, you know, railroads and things of that nature that cut off, you know, the so-called ghettos or hoods or barrios from the rest of society, because that would be considered like a corner or a ghetto. I forget what this word was. I looked it up years ago. Corners. The word is pa'ah, which is, I guess, is a root word of oral. I know the word for mouth is pa, the pa and the ha. Scatter into corners, to cleave in pieces, break into pieces, shatter, to cleave in pieces, dash to pieces, to puff, an example, blow away, scatter into corners. So we were scattered among the nations, right? And also, where did we end up in the worst parts of the neighborhood. Why? Because this is a part of the curse. Cursed shalt thou be in the city, and cursed shalt thou be in the field. That's a part of the curses, which is going to lead us into what Arthur Koestler said. Let me read that real quick. Deuteronomy 28 and 16. Well, for those of you that don't know, these from Deuteronomy 28, from the first verse to the 14th verse, are the blessings that the Lord said will come upon us as a nation if we obeyed His words. 15th verse states that if we didn't obey His words, the curse will come upon us and overtake us, which it did. And it starts to name off the curses. The first curse that came up, it was the 16th verse, says, "Cursed shalt thou be in the city, and cursed shalt thou be in the field." City is a city. You know, anywhere you go in America, around the world, but let's deal with America. Any city you go to, you're going to have hoods, you're going to have ghettos, you're going to have barrios. And who's mainly in there? Jake. So-called Negroes, Latinos, Native American Indians. Those reservations, what are those? Those are corners. Those are pretty much, the res is nothing more than a downtrodden ghetto. And that was Esau's way of corralling Jake, the Gadites, to put them in these reservations. All right? And cursed shalt thou be in the field. Now the field is the world. So anywhere the Israelites would be in the world, they would be cursed. You can go to Matthew the 13th chapter, and it states in there that the field is the world. All right? So anywhere on the planet, wherever you go, the Israelites would be cursed. In cities, in the field, so no matter where you go, you're not going to be able to escape the curses. This is why Jake moves from city to city, state to state, other countries trying to escape, the curses and the hell, but you're not going to be able to escape. You're only going to get so far. Why? Because these curses are heat-seeking missiles upon us. This is a GPS to who the Israelites are, the curses. Because when you jump down to the 45th verse, it says, "Moreover, all these curses shall come upon thee." And all these curses came upon our nation in one captivity or another. In some captivities more than others. But nevertheless, in every captivity that we were in, these curses came upon us. Why? Because it says, "Moreover, all these curses shall come upon thee, and" what? "Pursue thee." So it doesn't matter where you're at, where you move to, where you go, how far away you go. The curses are going to follow you. They're going to pursue you. Why? Because it's a heat-seeking missile for the Israelites. And overtake thee. So when you overtake someone, it means you catch up. So they're going to catch.
And so I what I Googled was pictures of white people in yokes, right? And so let's go all the way to the top. All right. There's nothing whatsoever. Nothing. Although I do found something among all of this, which is ironic, right? That you would find Jake in a yoke. Because these are yokes, but they're open. These are yokes, and this one is closed. And what it says, important truth about being yoked, you need to know. What's so important? The slave trade. You should know that you have been, beaten. All right, and then so it has. See this guy right here. But the yoke is open. This yoke is he's using it to work, to carry, to do some work that he wants to do. Okay? Not this guy here. This yoke is not the same type of yoke. You see? Oh boy, let me see if I can get this. Anyways, I hope you get the point. Because if you don't, there's something wrong with you, man. Anyway, Shalom.